Et je vous demande surtout, a big round of applause for Stefano.
Thank you. I don't have any idea what he was saying. Thank you very much for inviting me here in Paris. My name is Stefano Pochet, and well, even if I have French surname, actually I am Italian, and I don't speak French, so I'm going to speak English. So, I'm going to talk about two different topics. The first one will be about leveraging free channels to fuel growth, and the second one will be about leveraging paid channels to fuel growth. About me, well, around 10 years ago, I founded freebar.com, which was the first Italian social network. Then I worked in Visually, which is a company in the States. And if there is some Italian here, they might know fanpage.it, which is a famous Italian newspaper. And today I work in London as head of growth in Mastered. So, the first story I'm going to share will be about growing the Visually business-to-business customer base with cold emailing. So, Visually was and is still actually a business-to-business infographic marketplace. Basically, Visually offered marketing content production to businesses. And it had and still have a very great product, experiencing, when I was there around 2 years ago, 50% month-over-month organic growth. And to give context, the growth team at Visually was responsible for growing the number of quality leads to Visually Marketplace. So we were out there searching for more companies that want to produce marketing content using Visually. This means that basically we did not manage marketing budget, and so we were trying to leverage free channels. We developed different strategies. Basically, the main source of leads were a showcase website of infographics, which was pretty popular in the States, and the blog. And we developed different tactics, among which we improved the lead acquisition funnel, we enhanced the email marketing campaigns, some data analysis. But one thing very interesting we did was basically to create a new channel, which is cold email prospecting. What is cold email prospecting? Well, very simply, cold email prospecting is about sending marketing emails to people who had no prior contact with you. And as you can imagine, this can be quite challenging because, well, you are going to contact someone who knows very little about you, and it's very hard to sell to this person something. Does that can really work? Well, yes, if done right. Specifically at Visually, a successful cold emailing strategy has brought over 30 new qualified leads daily with minimum negative side effects to the Visually brand. So let's see how to do it. First of all, of course, you have to write an effective email template. This means that, first of all, make the email look like a manually written email. Send it from a senior company of your company, which can help. Be very short and direct in the email subject and body. It helps to communicate your brand reputation. So, for example, mention your clients or add links to case studies. That's because people don't really know much about you, so it can help to communicate your brand reputation. And of course, A/B test the subject line, which is very important to higher the open rate. However, there is one thing which is very important to capture the recipient attention in this case, because this person don't really know much about you, so you would really want to capture the attention of this person. And the key is to use data to generate a very personal email for the recipient. For example, you can try to use data about the location where the person is, or about the company where the person works. In example of Visually, we were sending emails only when we had good detailed data about the recipient. If you don't have the data, there are different things you can do. One is very simply to scrape information from the internet, and another one is to use third-party services. There are some third-party services, for example, one is full flip-top, another one is full contact, that given an email address can give you more information about who is the user, where he's from, company information. It's very important to have a minimum goal of reply rate, because if you send too many emails, it's not going to work. And the key to achieve that is have a minimum goal of reply rate, which in our case, for example, was 4%. Let's see an example. So Stefano Pochet is the co-founder of the hosting solutions company, and he makes an introduction to Mark Zuckerberg. So we know that this guy worked at Facebook, and basically we will mention the company where the person works in. So in this case, Facebook. We will mention the city where the company is established, in this case it's Palo Alto, and we mention other companies where this person is working, which might be companies that he knows someone in, and so he can probably talk with them. In this case, will be LinkedIn, Hewlett-Packard, and PayPal. Then, of course, we mentioned something about brand reputation and a very direct call to action. And the signature as well will be as so to make it look like it's a completely manually written email. One thing to keep in mind is that when you are going to send these emails, 4 of them will probably reply and will be happy to talk with you about your product, but you will send many other emails which probably will have a negative effect for your brand. And there are different things you can do to minimize this negative effect. First of all, again, make it look like a manually written email. Second, be direct but not aggressive. Of course, do not send too many emails. That's why I mentioned earlier to have a minimum 4% reply rate. Track negative replies, and if needed, manually reply to some emails. Of course, never email the same person. And scale it slowly. So send not too many emails per day. Additionally, one thing that has worked for us was to limit the number of daily emails sent to each organization, because people in the same organization tend to speak with each other. And so in this scenario, it's better to avoid that. And of course, to exclude specific companies and emails. When you will scale and you will send thousands of emails per day, you will have different problems. And the main thing to take in mind is to try to use a reliable email platform. I am very happy with the Intercom, which is very good for this case scenario. You will get many replies, many, and so you have to build an efficient process to handle the replies and to qualify leads. Some customers will require up to 5 replies to be ready for a phone call. And of course, keep track of any of the feedback that you will get for each email segment to make sure that everything is in line with your goals. Another thing which can help is to send the email at the right timing. From my experience, Monday and mornings perform better, and Intercom can help you achieving that, to send emails in specific moments of the day or of the week. And of course, automate it. Some advanced tips. I mentioned before flip-top and full contact, which can basically give you personal information of a user given an email address. They are basically 2 different services, and so recursively parse each of those. So for example, if you ask flip-top for an information of the user given an email address, and they return you a Twitter ID, one thing you can do is to ask full contact information for that Twitter ID. And if you have many mails, you can use some advanced services, like Google Prediction API, and basically these services can help you do stuff like telling you automatically if the reply you are receiving, it's a good one or it's probably a negative feedback. And additionally, you can also put in place, but only in the case that you are going to send many emails, a quality lead algorithm to understand quickly when you will get an email from someone who is going to be a good sale. How to get emails? There are different sources. There are inbound sources, so sources that you can find inside the company. First of all, you can do cold emailing to users who sign up to your website. In our case, we had a significant success by adding Facebook login, not because of the conversion rate, but because when people will basically log in through Facebook, you will have access to the personal data of the user. So you will have the company name, first name, last name. And if you have already an existing user base somewhere, you can parse that through those services like flip-top and full contact I mentioned earlier. And of course, there are other things you can do on the UI. So for example, another idea you can do is to store the user email input in the forms before it is actually submitted. This is very true if you have a very long form, so that you will actually capture more emails, which are good for this kind of cold emailing strategy. Or to add widgets at key sections. One you can do is basically called on-exit pop-ups. So you can basically anticipate the user intent to leave the site and show an appealing call to action asking for an email. And this is actually probably the best usage I've ever seen of the on-exit pop-up, to use that to get emails to do cold email strategy. This is an example of one simple widget we added to visually, which had overall a 2% conversion rate. And so basically, we had hundreds of thousands of users per day visiting this page, which means that we had thousands of emails coming per day just with a very simple widget. Usually, this is called Kuala Roo, and people usually use that for polls or to ask questions. We use that for this cold emailing strategy. Another thing you can do is to do outbound sources. So there are third-party services out there when you can buy quality emails. One is, for example, Leadspace. It's not really buying general emails, but it's about buying emails of people who are kind of qualified. So for example, you can buy the email of the marketing manager of Facebook on Leadspace. It's quite expensive, but sometimes can work. And of course, there are websites where you can scrape emails. Very simply, one good example is when I was working at Blickbook, our target market were university teachers. So basically, over 90% of our target market had data publicly available online. And it was just the problem of going out there and scrape it. Is this legal? Well, it's borderline. It depends on where you get the emails. If it's inbound, signed-up users, you can definitely use that. If it's not, well, no. However, one thing I can tell you is that from my experience, if the email will look a personally manually written email, well, the negative feedback will be really, really minimum. The worst thing you will do, you'll be probably reply, but someone will be more or less angry, and you will have to reply. This is actually a manually written email. And that was the first story. Well, now, when you want to scale very fast, that's another problem. In the example of Mastered, where I'm working right now, we want to scale very fast. And actually, we are now doing that. We are basically growing from 0 to 250,000 pounds monthly. And when you want to grow that fast, there is no way around. The only thing you can do is to basically to leverage paid channels. So I will now share the story about Mastered, how we are growing that fast. Mastered is a company which makes online fashion course for professionals. We have exclusive teachers, relatively high price tag, and we have a process of more or less 4 months of acquisition. In this case, we have a target of 1,000 of bookings. The growth team at Mastered is different from one visually, because basically we are responsible for the growth through any channel, which includes digital marketing, which means that basically we directly manage the marketing budget, and it's pretty high as well. We manage, on average, 100,000 pounds monthly. And we had a very ambitious target. And by the way, we are hiring growth hackers. If you're interested, let's keep in touch later. So we developed different strategies: Instagram, email marketing, Pinterest, affiliates, scraping as well. However, the best way to grow the revenue that fast is very simply to leverage paid media. There is no other way around. In our case, basically we tried Facebook ads, and it worked very well. From my experience, Facebook ad is a wonderful growth hacker toy. And the reason is that with the right marketing skills and right scientific skills, it's possible to scale marketing efforts very quickly, keeping a high return on investment, and with not much management. And usually, growth hacker is probably searching for this. So, growing with Facebook advertising. Keep in mind, Facebook advertising is a marketplace. So the key, differently from a free channel where it's very important to have a great product, momentum, and similar stuff, is a different environment. It's very important to guarantee high delivery, to have a funnel in place so that you can show your advertising at a high enough CPM, which means that basically this is very much about the funnel itself, the process of acquiring users, not much about the product. Of course it helps to have a good product, but it's very much about the funnel itself. In our case at Mustard, for example, the funnel structure has been very important to make Facebook advertising to work. So, when you will develop a Facebook ad strategy, you will basically have two different problems. The first one will be to develop a strategy that works for a given target audience. And second one will be about scaling it. So when you will approach the first problem, from my experience, you can forget about the size of the audience. You can also do something which works for a relatively small audience, and it does not have to be very profitable. Usually when you scale, the return of investment can get lower. However, it can happen that the return of investment, it can get better over time. When you will develop your first strategy, the best thing you can do is to leverage what is great about Facebook advertising. And what is great about Facebook advertising is basically, first of all, the targeting criteria. You can really find the people that likes your product on Facebook. And at the beginning, don't worry too much about narrowing the audience. If the audience is small, it's still okay at the beginning. And the second thing, which is very good about Facebook advertising, is the social factor. Basically, excitement. When the post looks really great, there is a lot of excitement, this can funnel sales. The best strategy I have ever seen are very simply the one where the advertising is just a fuel for an existing strong social strategy. When you have that, then Facebook advertising is going to work very well. Keep in mind, your advertising is not the post. It's the post, the comments, the likes, and the shares. Which means that at the beginning, it's very important to have this kind of excitement around your post. One thing you can do is to use organic posts, so basically posts which are posted to the Facebook page. And one thing you can do is to do, first of all, some advertising to your existing fan page, and then promote the post to people that don't know much about you. It's very important to keep an eye to the comments, because basically that's going to be part of the advertising. If there are positive comments, it's very important. It's very good for the advertising as well. And talking about the conversions, basically one thing to keep in mind is that there is an algorithm behind Facebook, so it's very good to leave it running for a few days. When you're going to scale it, you will have basically another problem of managing different ad sets. An ad set is basically a group of Facebook users, a segment of Facebook user. One thing you have to keep in mind is that each ad set has to be big enough to deliver these conversions. For example, in our case, at Mustard, we have a 2% click rate in our advertising and a 2% conversion rate, which means that basically we will get one conversion each 2,500 people. And so to have the advertising to work, we basically need at least 100,000 people. In this way, Facebook can optimize the algorithm. Well, very simply, if the audience is big, in our case, for example, is bigger than 500,000 people, we tend to segment it. And then what we do is to simply pause the one which are not performing very good. Another very important thing is to do not target the same users into different ad sets. Because if you target the same users into two ad sets, what will happen is that you will literally basically bid against yourself. And this is something you want to avoid because it will higher up the price of the Facebook campaigns. When you want to scale, you want to find new users. Where can you actually find your new users, your target? One thing you can do is to scale internationally, as long as it's an option for your business, taking consideration that basically everyone is on Facebook, and just United States can be considered like 10 European countries. Another thing you can do is to use a feature of Facebook called lookalike, which lets you create automatically a target of users interested in your product, given an existing user base you have. At the beginning, these lookalikes are very good. I have very good experience with them. So actually, at the beginning, it can make sense to buy users, so to do advertising at a negative return of investment, just to build the lookalike. They work very good. And some advanced tips when you are going to develop these strategies can be if you use a third-party editor, and I suggest to use Smartly, which is a very good editor for Facebook, you can do very advanced things, which will work very good if you are going to scale for very big numbers, like our, for example, where we are doing advertising for many users in the same moment. One thing you can do with these editors is, for example, to create a lot of lookalikes. That's the feature I was talking before. With the Facebook Classic interface, you can create one single lookalike. With these tools, basically, you can create hundreds of lookalike with just one click. Another thing you can do is to automate the targeting exclusion. As I mentioned before, it's important to don't do the advertising to two different ad sets to the same person. And these tools actually do that relatively automatically. And another thing you can do is basically to use algorithms to manage the budget. And that's one of the reasons why actually I mentioned that Facebook advertising is a wonderful growth hacker toy, because basically you can write algorithms that will make your work. And through algorithms you can manage budget and bidding of hundreds of ad sets automatically, which can basically let you grow very quickly if this is one of your needs. Thank you very much. And
Et some questions en français ou en anglais?
I was wondering which channels work better for you. I mean, which settings work better? Is it CPM or click per CPC? Did you try like Pinterest advertising or Reddit, which I know is very cheap because I've tried? And I mean, precisely which one worked better for you, just out of curiosity?
So, talking specifically about Facebook, usually the bidding is relative to the kind of advertising you are doing. So, for example, if we have a very small audience, which we know work very good, giving you an example, we do online fashion courses, and in this moment we are doing a course for beauty, for makeup. There are some segments, for example, people who have in the job title that they are makeup artists, and this segment is very good. When the segment is very good, I think the best thing to do is to do CPM, when in this specific scenario. When you don't know much about the target, when the target probably is not going to be very effective for you, then the best bid is probably to do optimized CPM. This is as long as your goal is to deliver conversions. Talking about Pinterest and Reddit, they are pretty new. We are trying to enter Pinterest, but they do advertising only in the States in this moment. They are going to enter the UK, but it's a long process, so basically it's too early to talk about that. I think that Pinterest is a very good, I think Pinterest advertising will be successful in the future.
Petite question encore? Little question.
You mentioned that you choose that mastered the paid advertising. And you chose it because you were willing to grow really fast, basically. Is there any other reason to choose paid advertising over free advertising, in your opinion?
Sure. I mean, it depends very much on your business model. And first of all, you have to have budget to do advertising. That's an important thing to keep in mind. In our case, we have investment. I would say whenever it makes sense. So what I want to mean is that free channels are good and probably should be a bit more the base, something you should do before going to do advertising. But there are many other ways, many other scenarios where it can make sense. One I can mention for sure is actually the very early stage for a company. What I want to mean is that when you first develop a product, what you want to do first is to test if the product actually is going to work before developing a growth strategy, marketing strategy, hiring customer management. So one very good way to use Facebook advertising is probably at the very beginning just to test out your idea. So for example, one thing that can work is, let's say you have an idea and you want just to see if there is the need of this product out of the world. So what you can do is to do an advertising, reach just simply 1,000 people with the pay-per-click advertising, which will be very cheap on Facebook. And you can basically have an answer if you will get enough people subscribing to your landing page or whatever, which probably overall will be better than developing a free growth model by yourself, just for something that you're probably going to test.
Okay, cool. Take a big round of applause for our friend right here. Thank you very much. Hop là.